Picture this for a second. It's a pitch-black night in a rural village in Java, Indonesia. The year, 2024. Right in front of you, there's this glowing white cloth screen, backlit by a single lamp. And dancing across it are these incredibly intricate shadows of carved leather puppets. You've got the puppet master, chanting poetry, singing, and moving these figures with just mind-blowing precision. And all the while, the air is filled with the hypnotic, resonant crashing of a bronze gamelan orchestra. It's a scene that's played out exactly like this for centuries. But here is the wild part. The story they're telling? It isn't some local Javanese folktale. It's the Mahabharata, a massive, ancient Hindu epic composed in Sanskrit, thousands of miles away and thousands of years ago in India.
Now, to really grasp why that's so fascinating, you've got to look at the sheer demographics here. Indonesia is literally the world's largest Muslim-majority nation. We are talking about 87% of the population identifying as Muslim. In the island of Java itself, it is deeply, profoundly Islamic. Yet every single night, in villages all across this island, these ancient Hindu epics are center stage. Hindu stories, Hindu cosmology, brought to life by and for a deeply Muslim society. It's a massive, beautiful paradox.
So you gotta wonder, how is this actually possible? How did a religion imported from India well over a millennium ago survive the total Islamization of the island? And not just survive, but morph into something so distinctly Javanese that locals don't even really consider it Hindu anymore. To them, it's just Javanese. That's the core mystery of our explainer today. We're going to unpack the incredible story of how belief systems adapt, transform, and manage to survive against all the odds.
Section 1. Empires and Trade Routes, the Golden Age of Synthesis.
To figure this out, we need to hit rewind. Long before any of this, maritime trade routes were the ultimate cultural highways. Indian merchants and priests were sailing over, bringing spices, sure, but also bringing deep philosophical frameworks. And Southeast Asian rulers totally embraced these Hindu and Buddhist concepts to legitimize their own power. From the 4th century Funan kingdom to the 8th century Salanjar dynasty, you know, the guys who built the massive Borobudur temple, right up to the great Majapahit Empire in the 13th century. Java was this vibrant epicenter of a uniquely syncretic Hindu-Buddhist civilization. They weren't just copying India, right? They were taking these traditions and perfectly blending them into something totally their own.
But history never sits still. Fast forward to the 15th and 16th centuries, and the story takes a massive turn. Islam begins its rapid sweep across Java. But, and this is a really crucial point, it wasn't through sudden, violent conquest, it was a slow, gradual transformation. Sufi mystics and Muslim merchants started arriving, and through trade, intermarriage, and gentle persuasion, the population gradually converted. By the 17th century, those great Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms were gone, replaced by Islamic sultanates. Now, usually when a new religion takes over, the old one is completely erased. But Java was different. Hinduism didn't die there, it just transformed.
Section 2. The Vehicle of Shadows, Wayang Puppet Theater. When the old religion lost its political power, it had to find a place to hide. And it found the most brilliant disguise imaginable, right inside the creative genius of Wayang shadow puppetry. Take the original Sanskrit Mahabharata. It's an absolute beast of a text, clocking in at around 1.8 million words. But when it was adapted into the Javanese Mahabharata, it wasn't just a straight translation, it was a complete cultural overhaul. They added local Javanese spirits, they injected local humor, they reinterpreted the main characters through their own ethical lenses. Basically, they kept the core of the story alive by making it feel inherently Javanese, which allowed it to just slip right under the radar into the new Islamic culture.
And the absolute linchpin of this whole operation? The Dalang. The Dalang is the master puppeteer, but honestly, calling him a puppeteer feels like a massive understatement. This guy acts as a storyteller, a ritual specialist, a philosopher, and basically a modern-day guru. Think about having to memorize thousands of scenes, complex musical cues, and deep philosophical teachings, decades of training. When a Dalang performs, he is essentially functioning as a traditional Hindu guru, transmitting ancient Hindu cosmology and the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita directly to a Muslim audience, night after night, all wrapped up in this deeply respected cultural show.
Section 3. Philosophy in Disguise, the Iceberg of Syncretism.
Now, Wayang puppet theater? That's really just the tip of the iceberg. The real magic is what's going on beneath the surface. This survival wasn't about building hidden temples or fighting back. It was about seamlessly merging philosophies. Let's look at a rapid-fire masterclass in this syncretic thought. First up is rasa.
In pure Hindu philosophy, rasa is this aesthetic and emotional experience of ultimate reality. But in Javanese thought, it evolved into a way to perceive truth through intuition rather than strict rational thought. And this was a game changer. It allowed Javanese Muslims to practice a form of Islam, often called Abhagan Islam, that emphasizes deep inner spiritual feeling way over strict adherence to formal rules.
Next up, we have a concept I know you're familiar with: karma, the thoroughly Hindu and Buddhist law of cause and consequence across lifetimes. Now, the absolutely fascinating thing here is how strongly this concept stuck around inside the Javanese Islamic worldview. Strict Islamic theology is all about divine judgment, right? But many Javanese Muslims simultaneously hold on to the belief in karma, and they pair it with a cyclical view of time. This idea that the universe goes through infinite cycles of creation and destruction rather than moving in a straight linear line.
And finally, let's talk about Maya. In Hinduism, this is the idea that the physical world is just an illusion, a veil that obscures the ultimate reality. Well, this concept fit like an absolute glove with the mystical Sufi teachings brought over by those early Muslim merchants. Since Sufism is a deeply mystical branch of Islam focused on inner spiritual experiences, those Sufi teachers were totally open to absorbing these existing local ideas. It is such a brilliant historical example of separating theology, what you actually believe about God, from culture, which is how you express your identity and your values.
Section 4. Two Paths of Survival, the Bali Exception. To really grasp the genius of this Javanese transformation, we just have to look right next door, across the Strait of Bali. Because when Islam was spreading across Java, Bali just didn't convert. Today, 87% of Balinese are Hindu. Why? Well, mostly due to geographic isolation and really strong existing institutions. Balinese Hinduism survived by building walls. They maintained their institutional temples, their formal priesthoods, their official religious structures. But Javanese Hinduism, it survived by turning into water. It just flowed right into Islamic culture, surviving through philosophical syncretism, integration, and the cultural lifeblood of the wayang theater. Two completely different survival strategies, but both incredibly successful.
Let's just pause for a second and appreciate the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. 500 years. For 5 solid centuries, Islam has been the official religion of Java. And yet, despite modern urbanization, despite televisions and smartphones, and completely revolutionized entertainment habits, this living, breathing philosophical connection to ancient India has remained totally unbroken. Master dalangs are still out there being trained, those leather puppets are still being carved by hand, the gamelan is still playing.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this explainer. As our source material so beautifully puts it, religions survive not by remaining pure and unchanged, but by becoming new while maintaining continuity with what came before. Hinduism in Java didn't survive because people stubbornly insisted on remaining officially Hindu. It survived because it was adaptive enough to coexist, it was flexible enough to be reinterpreted, and it was powerful enough to remain deeply, deeply meaningful to people, even when it was no longer the one in charge. Wayang is the stunning testament to the incredible, unstoppable resilience of human culture through continuous reinvention. Which leaves me with a final thought I want you to ponder. We've just explored how an entire culture absorbed a 1,000-year-old epic into their daily lives without even realizing they're practicing ancient Hindu philosophy. So I gotta ask, if a massive ancient religion can survive by hiding right in the shadows of another, what beliefs, what stories, or what everyday practices in our own modern culture are secretly ancient philosophies in disguise? What hidden history is operating right beneath the surface of your everyday life? Think about that for a bit.